Well, hello and welcome to the channel. Here we are. I am just filling up my cup of tea. This is turmeric tea for the second time. And I thought that today we could talk about experiments, kind of like life experiments. It's a funny thing. I mean, it's Wednesday, it is 10:15. I have been up for about 20 minutes. Really, really slow start today. And it's on days like this that I get a little bit wobbly about my health. And particularly at this time of year, because I see other people with other businesses that aren't like mine, but that are kind of like in the same global sphere. Maybe it's textile kits or the membership-y kinds of things. And everybody is putting on, of course, their best show at this time of year. But equally, there always seems to be a massive, massive gap between how I can run my business and how all of these other people with energy and often realistically a bit more money and things run theirs. And it does hit me sometimes not that often now, but sometimes it does really hit me, and I think, what's the point? Really, what is the point? But that is why I have my really calm, slow start, and that is why I run a series of life experiments. Because the thing about life experiments is that they are experiments, and I can try something, and if it works, then I can incorporate it into my life. If it doesn't work, if I don't like it, if it's not getting results, if it doesn't fit in, then I can just discard it. So I start these sort of life experiments or intention settings or activities or whatever with the new moon, and some of them only last that 29 days till the next new moon. Some of them get discarded before that, if I'm honest, but they're meant to kind of like give them the benefit of a full moon cycle. But what I'm talking about today are the 4 or 5 things that started off as that kind of experiment, but which have become sort of properly embedded into my life. So anyway, I have my cup of tea. Let's go down to the studio. So now we actually have much milder weather now, which means that the garden is a lot muddier looking. But last week we had frost and snow, and it looked absolutely gorgeous. So I did take some photos then for you, which I think I might just put over this bit as I walk down to the studio. But in the meantime, look at this beautiful flower that I got kind of to cheer myself up in this weather. And heading, I took my parents to a garden centre, and they had all of these beautiful hellebores in flower. Hellebores, I love hellebores, but I am now away each year at the time that the hellebores are flowering in my garden. So I treated myself to a forced hellebore, which is now on the situtory table. But anyway, onward. Let's just walk through the garden. Down one step, down 2 steps. And here we are. So, yes, life experiments. Life experiments were something that I came across maybe about 5 years ago. And this idea that I could treat my life in the way that I would maybe treat a business, try something in a really strategic way and kind of keep a note of what was working, what wasn't working, keep an idea of whether it was something that was going to improve my life or not. And if it was, then to start incorporating it. And I've tried lots and lots of different experiments, different ways of starting my day, different ways of measuring my sort of like, or not measuring my, sort of, what would be the word? You see, this is a bad day because I'm now really losing words. And in the past, I might not have done a video. The kinds of things where I'm keeping track of, you know, what I'm doing at work and how I'm feeling about it and what I'm getting done. So anyway, here we are now down at the studio. It's the door. And I don't think I'll show you any of this, but we'll go straight through because I've put lots and lots of boxes. There's Ailey's bit. Ailey's bit looks fine. Right, so here we are in the studio. I have a pile of clothes that I am sending to a friend, and this pile of fabric is for making fabric string, which is the activity that we are doing for the studio club, which will be in December. We're going to get together before Christmas and we're going to take all of our fabric scraps and make them into beautiful and useful fabric string to wrap presents. So that is my pile of that there, and my started ball of string. Right, if you've not been here before, my name is Jane and I live in the middle of Scotland. I'm a textile artist, a teacher, a natural dyer, and I run an online kind of creativity club called the Studio Club. If you want to know more about any of that, the links are all underneath here. So this was my studio table as I left it last night, and this are supply kits that I'm putting together for a course that I'm doing in January. And it's all about nostalgia and heritage and the kind of things that you often inherit or find in charity shops. Sewing boxes, button boxes, odd scraps of embroidery transfers, all of that kind of thing. So I'm sure I'll talk about that later in another video. But this week we are talking about my life experiments and the 4 that I have kept going with. So the first 2 are to do with my mornings, and the first one I have actually spoken about excuse me, in a previous video, and that is in May I went on a Reiki 1 workshop, and as part of that we learned sort of the 5 chakras meditation. That will not be the right word. Where you have certain things to say or certain intentions to speak aloud, and you go down chakras. Anyway, if you do Reiki, if you know what I'm on about, that will make sense. If not, it won't make sense to anybody else. So it's a very short meditation. And I then segue into a kind of a visual meditation that I do, which is kind of a combination of a future mentor visualization and an unconditional love meditation. I do this every morning. I think I've missed it 3 days since May, and it has made such a difference to my life. It somehow brings energy and calm, even if I've had a particularly bad night. So that is the first one. The second one is that I have started knitting in the mornings. Now, I've talked in another video, which is about my morning routine, about how I have this kind of really slow waking up. and I take my steroid medication, and then it's a really slow acting one. And it takes about 40 minutes, an hour for me to be kind of properly compos mentis. And I therefore have this kind of period where I am awake but very, very brain foggy. And I used to try and do all sorts of things. I used to try and read, used to try and journal, used to try and draw. But my brain just isn't up to it. I don't take any words in. And then had a long time where this was the time that I would do kind of Instagram stuff. And I used to always post at 7 in the morning on a scheduled post because I wouldn't necessarily be awake. And then I would reply to people. But recently I decided that if I'm wanting to really cut down on my phone use, which is one of my aims this year, starting the day off with an hour on Instagram is not really putting my best foot forward. So instead, I have been knitting, and I've been doing this for about a month now, and it's working very well. It's got to be something that is a really, really easy project. So at the moment, I am knitting Sophie Scarf by Petit Knits, which is like a really, really simple pattern. You only have to do something I think it's every 8 rows in the actual pattern. I've made it every 10 rows because I don't like things tight around my neck. So it's a scarf like this, like a little knitted neckerchief. And I'm now making one for a friend because she's just such a cheerful person and works outside. So I thought that she could use that really, really well. And the thing about knitting is that it gives me this feeling first thing in the morning that I am doing something. I am being productive. I'm not just lying there, feeling rather tired. And also I think that the physical motion of knitting is something that calms your mind and also brings you back into your body. So knitting in the mornings is one of these experiments that is staying. The third experiment that has kind of embedded itself into my life, which really surprised me, was that at work I have a standing desk and underneath it I have a treadmill. Now I'm not really an exercise equipment kind of person, and I've always been terrified of treadmills. You know, that idea that you'll be walking and suddenly you'll scoot off the back because you've lost attention. But I got the treadmill because I needed to be doing more walking, and then this year, I didn't really use it that much, but this year in March I damaged my Achilles tendon, and I was incredibly stupid, and I decided that what it needed was for me to kind of stretch it to its limits and to walk through the pain and to just ignore it and it would get better soon. Now, it turns out that taking steroids long term is not brilliant for your tendons anyway. Something I didn't know until I damaged my tendon and I got bursitis, and it became clear that walking through it was not working. So a pair of expensive 3D printed insoles later, and a couple of months of enforced rest where my Apple phone kept sort of like checking whether I was still there. And it is getting better. And what I have found is that I can walk places as long as it is on the flat. As soon as there's any kind of rough ground, I get a sore Achilles tendon again. And I have promised my podiatrist that I am not going to try and walk through pain again. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm using the treadmill at my desk, which is nice and flat and kind of like measurable. And I'm using that a lot more. And particularly I use that when I wind thread, when I'm doing like little drawings, if I'm watching any kind of like YouTube videos, checking through things like how the website looks and all that kind of thing. I can input new products, kind of all this kind of very basic stuff I now can do while walking. And that's adding a couple of thousand steps onto my daily total, but without kind of pushing me back into the problems with the tendon. And in the meantime, I'm also building up my calf muscles, which will hopefully stop it happening again. And fingers crossed, by the end of the year, I'll be back to walking normally. That is my aim. Go down to Northumberland for the very beginning of the year, and I want to be able to do proper beach walks with the dogs. That is my aim. So that is another life experiment that has become embedded, that when I'm at work, I spend my time on the treadmill if I'm doing the kinds of things that can be done while walking slowly. And the fourth thing that has come into my life, again, it's fairly recent, something that I started doing in September, just when we came back from holiday. And that is going to a local cafe on usually a Thursday afternoon and just taking my notebook and a pen and a prompt and sitting there and just journaling, I suppose, but thinking about whatever it is that I have decided, sort of like before I get there. I used to go to cafes and I would kind of try and do a lot of planning and kind of come up with ideas or new products and that kind of thing. And I would be really using it as... So I've been going along with a ready written prompt, and it will be something like, how can I help people to be more creative? And then I will just write solely about that for half an hour. That will be all that I'm thinking about. I'm not planning anything. I'm not coming up with new ideas, nothing like that. I just will be really going deep inside myself. And the reason that I started doing this was that as part of Bloom, which is kind of my part course, part coaching program, we have new moon journaling sessions. And doing that with people has made me realize how important the gap of space is when you're journaling. That it's when you think you've run out of things to say, or that you're struggling even to start, or you don't understand quite what it is that you're going to write. It's in those gaps that the magic happens. So by taking my notebook with a single prompt in it and having to engage with that for the full time that I'm going to have my coffee, that has been really mind-opening, and it's come up with so many things that I would never have thought about in the sort of day-to-day thrum. So the thing about experiments is that everybody's life is different, and I think it's very easy to look at people, as I look at these other businesses, and feel that because I cannot do what they do, I can't follow sort of their track of, you know, having brand strategists and really sort of fancy premises and photo shoots and packaging and staff who are just there to do marketing, and going all over the place and giving, you know, talks here, there and everywhere and lots of workshops and things. All of this very kind of like glamorous, high performance kind of life. Because I can't do that, it's very easy for me to feel that I am lesser, not good enough, not proper. Now, realistically, when I'm actually, in a good place and well bolstered, I know that that is rubbish, because, these other businesses that do it in the proper way, there's lots of them, lots of them. And what I have had to do, and what lots of other people who have chronic illness or less energy or caring responsibilities or whatever, do instead is we look at what we can do and we create something magical within that. And a big part of that for me has been trying out these life experiments and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. And in the same way, I try out business experiments, like my supply kits here that I am sitting with. These aren't the kind of supply kits that anybody else would really do. You can't do them on a massive scale. I have been collecting these vintage transfers for quite a while, and yet I'm going to be getting 25 supply sets out of them. It's not something that you would do at scale, I don't think. And in the same way, I don't think that these kind of videos would be the kinds of things that somebody who wanted to scale in a corporate kind of way would do. And nor is the fact that, if you contact Snapdragon, you're going to get a reply from me. If you join my membership, it's me. If you get coaching, it's me. Everybody, it's a relationship, and that is different. So this is something that I have to keep remembering, that I am me and what I do is special. Right, anyway, I think that that's enough time for me to ramble on. Let me know what kind of life experiment you are doing, because I think everybody does them. They maybe not call them life experiments. What things are you trying out, and what has worked and what has not worked? I would love to know in the comments. And until next week, I'm going to get back to packing up these, and I will see you next Friday. Bye-bye.